Ensure the wheels are properly chocked. Check body surfaces for signs of any damage. Check under the vehicle for signs of oil, fuel, coolant leaks, or other damage. Open the air tanks and drain them. When complete, close them again. Start the engine of the vehicle. Turn on and log into the PeopleNet system. Turn on the low beam headlights and hazard lights. Build up air pressure to normal, 90 to 120 psi. Stop the engine and check for air leaks. Release the parking brakes and listen for air leaks. Raise the hood of the vehicle. Ensure the wheels and rims have no cracks, broken studs, or missing lug nuts. Ensure the tire is properly inflated, with no serious cuts, bulges, tread wear, or any signs of misalignment. Ensure the valve stem is not touching the wheel, rim, or brake drum, and that the valve cap is in place. Ensure the wheel bearing and hub has no obvious leaking on the outside or inside of the wheel. Verify the correct oil level. With the brakes released, look for noticeable gap between the lining and the brake drum. Ensure the brake chamber mounting bolts and brackets are not broken or missing. On the slack adjuster and chamber push rod, look for positions other than the rod centered in the hole. Ensure the brake hoses have no damage or chafing. Ensure the springs, spring hangers, shackles, and U-bolts have no cracks, breaks, or shifting. Ensure the shock absorbers are secure and not leaking. Ensure the splash guard is secure with no cracks or damage. Ensure there are no loose connections or damage to the air filter brackets and hoses. Also, check the filter gauge. Ensure there are no leaks or dry rot on the coolant and heater hoses. Ensure the fan drive belts are not loose, frayed, or missing. Ensure the wiring and wiring harnesses have no signs of damage. Check the engine and engine compartment for any coolant, oil, or fuel leaks. Look for any other loose, worn, bent, damaged, or missing parts. Proceed to the opposite side of the vehicle and check the wheels and rims. Check the tire. Check the wheel bearing and hub. Check the brake drum. Check the brake chamber mounting bolts and brackets. Check the slack adjuster and chamber push rod. Check the brake hoses. Check the springs, spring hangers, shackles, and U-bolts. Check the shock absorber. Check the splash guard. Inspect the fuel separator sight glass. Ensure there's no water present or any leaks. Ensure there are no loose connections or damage to the air filter brackets and hoses. Check the filter gauge if it's mounted on the filter. Check the coolant and heater hoses. Inspect the fan drive belts. And take a look at the engine and engine compartment. Inspect the wiring and wiring harnesses. And look for any other loose, worn, bent, damaged, or missing parts. Lower the hood of the vehicle. Ensure the parking, clearance, and identification lights are unbroken, operating, clean, and the proper color. Ensure the reflectors are clean and the proper color. Ensure the headlights are unbroken, the low beams are operating, the lenses are clean and not oxidized. Ensure the left and right turn signals are unbroken, clean, operating, the proper color, and both flashing. Ensure the charge air cooler and radiator or bug screen is clean and undamaged. Check for any other loose, worn, bent, damaged, or missing parts. And ensure the windshield and wiper blades have no damage. Inspect the diesel particulate filter, hoses, and fittings for leaks or damage. Ensure the fuel lines are secure and not leaking. Check the fuel tank. Make sure it's full of fuel and the cap is on securely. Ensure the rear of the engine is not leaking. Check the transmission for leaks and check the cooler hoses and the fittings for leaks. Ensure the drive shaft appears serviceable without excess wear or damage. Make sure it's secure and not missing any bolts or straps. Check to ensure the exhaust system is secure, not touching wires, fuel or tubing, and that it's not leaking. Check the frame and cross members. Make sure they're not bent, cracked, damaged, or missing. Check the air tubing and electrical wiring, that it's properly secured and there's no damage or chafing. Check the wheels and rims for cracks, broken studs, or missing lug nuts. Inspect the tires. They should be properly inflated with no serious cuts, bulges, tread wear, or any signs of misalignment. The valve stem should not be touching the wheel, rim, or brake drum. The valve cap should be in place, and no objects should be stuck between the wheels. Ensure there are no major differences between the tires. Their circumferences should match. Inspect the wheel bearing and hub. There should be no obvious leaking on the outside or inside of the wheel. Check the springs, spring hangers, shackles, and U-bolts for cracks, breaks, or shifting. Inspect the shock absorbers. They should be secure and not leaking. With the brakes released, look for a noticeable gap between the lining and brake drum. Ensure the brake hoses have no damage and no chafing. Ensure the brake chamber mounting bolts and brackets are not broken or missing. Ensure the slack adjuster and chamber push rod is in the correct position. Ensure the drive shaft appears serviceable, without excessive wear or damage, that it's secure and not missing any bolts or straps. Check the mud flaps. Make sure they're present, properly secured, and not cut or torn. Check the frame and cross members. They shouldn't be bent, cracked, damaged, or missing. Inspect the air tubing and electrical wiring. It should be properly secured with no damage or chafing. Inspect the tail lights, brake lights, and turn signal lights. They should all be clean, operating, and the proper color. The fifth wheel should be securely mounted to the frame, with no missing or damaged parts. It should be properly lubricated, and the mechanism should not be worn, bent, or damaged. The locking pin should be present, and it should be locked in place. Ensure there are no air leaks. The landing gear should be fully raised, with no missing or damaged parts. The trailer side clearance lights should be clean, operating, and the proper color. The conspicuity tape should be clean, the proper color, and it should run at least 50% of the trailer length. Ensure frame and cross members are not bent, cracked, damaged, or missing. Check the trailer side door for damage, that it operates properly, that it's closed and secure, and that required security seals are in place. Placard holders must be undamaged, secure, with all clips in working order. Check for any other damaged or missing trailer body parts. Ensure the hydraulic units are not damaged or leaking. Inspect the wheels and rims. Inspect the tires. Ensure there are no major differences between each pair of tires. Their circumferences should match. Ensure the PSI hoses are not damaged or rubbing on the wheel rim. Inspect the wheel bearing and hub. Check the springs, spring hangers, shackles, and U-bolts. Inspect the shock absorber. Check the torque rod arms for any damage. Inspect the sliding axles. There should be 2 pins present. All locks present should be fully in place and locked, aligned, with no damage or missing parts. The flexible air tubing should not be cracked, cut, crimped, or otherwise damaged. It should be secured against tangling, dragging, and chafing. Inspect the brake drum. Inspect the brake hoses. Inspect the brake chamber mounting bolts and brackets. Check the slack adjuster and chamber push rod. Ensure the mud flaps are present, properly secured, and not cut or torn. The rear clearance, identification, tail lights, brake lights, and turn signal lights should all be operating, clean, and the proper color. All reflectors should be clean and the proper color. The liftgate should be level inside the carriage. There should be no chain ends present, no visible fluid leaks, adequate level in the fluid lens, no damage, no loose or missing bolts, screws, or cracked welds. Lower the liftgate and obtain the driver's book, if needed. Ensure the cargo is properly secured. Inspect the rear door for any damage, defects, and proper operation. Ensure it's closed and secure with all required security seals in place. Test all liftgate functions, and then raise the liftgate into the traveling position. Inspect the mud flaps. Inspect the wheels and rims. Inspect the tires. Ensure the tires are matched. Check the PSI hoses. Inspect the wheel bearing and hub. Check the spring hangers, shackles, and U-bolts. Check the shock absorbers. Inspect the torque rod arms. Check the sliding axles. Inspect the flexible air tubing. Inspect the brake drum. Check the brake hoses. Inspect the brake chamber mounting bolts and brackets. And check the slack adjuster and chamber push rod. Inspect the trailer body parts. Inspect the placard holders. Inspect the frame and cross members. Inspect the conspicuity tape. Inspect the trailer side clearance lights. Inspect the landing gear. And inspect the crank handle that it's present and secure. Inspect the mud flaps. Inspect the wheels and rims. Inspect the tires. Ensure this pair of tires is matched well. Check the wheel bearing and hub. Inspect the spring hangers, shackles, and U-bolts. Check the shock absorber. Inspect the brake drum. Check the brake hoses. Inspect the brake chamber mounting bolts and brackets. Check the slack adjuster and chamber push rod. Inspect the drive shaft. Inspect the diesel exhaust fluid tank. Check the fuel lines. Check the fuel tank. Inspect the rear of the engine. Check the transmission. Inspect the drive shaft. Check the frame and cross members. And inspect the air tubing and electrical wiring. Inspect the air tubing and electrical wiring. It should be properly secured with no damage or chafing and sufficient slack for turns. The trailer cord receptacle should be properly mounted with no damage and the plug properly seated. Inspect the glad hands and check the electronic onboard recorder antenna. It should be securely attached to the cab with the cables connected, secured, and not dangling freely. Remove the battery box cover and ensure that the box is securely mounted to the vehicle. Check that the batteries are secured against movement. The battery cases should not be broken or leaking. Check the battery cables for damage or corrosion. Ensure the battery tops and terminals are clean with no foreign materials or corrosion. Replace the battery box cover and fasten it securely. Turn on the right turn signal and check the tractor right front and rear turn signals. Then check the trailer right turn signals. Turn on the left turn signals and high beam headlights. Then check the tractor front left turn signals and high beam headlights. Then check the tractor rear left turn signal and the trailer left turn signals. Inspect the steps and handles on the cab. Make sure there's no looseness or breakage. Clean any slippery substances that might make cab entry or exit hazardous. Start the engine. Ensure all of the gauges and telltale lights are operating properly. Pump the brakes to relieve pressure and look for warning lights and alarms when the pressure decreases to critical levels. Test the horns and backup alarm for proper operation. Test the clutch for proper function. Check the windshield wipers and washer for proper operation. Test the temperature controls and defroster for proper operation. Inspect the inside windshield, door window, and instruments. Check the mirrors for cracks, breaks, proper operation, and that they are properly secured. Adjust the driver's seat and ensure the mirrors are properly adjusted. The safety belt should have no damage, fraying, and it should function properly. Inspect the warning triangles, fire extinguisher, and flares. Secure any loose items in the cab. Apply the service brakes. After an initial drop, pressure should hold steady or increase slightly with the engine at idle speed. Ensure there is no excessive free play in the steering wheel.